This is Glambition Radio, episode number 197 with online master coach Sigrun. Welcome to Glambition Radio. I am your host, Allie Brown. I'm an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and mom of twins. I love thinking big, doing different, and exploring ideas that disrupt the status quo, especially when it comes to women. Because we are rewriting the rules for leadership, business success, making money, and changing the world. And we're doing it with style. Let's go. Hello, we are putting all the final details in place this week for our first ever trust meeting in Miami coming up March 4th and 5th. And the Trust is my new private premier global network for women entrepreneurs with businesses generating over $1 million annually. I am so thrilled to have our founding members joining us. And one of them is going to be our guest today on the show. But before I get to that, I just want to give a shout out. If you or another female leader you know is at or over the $1 million mark, is looking for something much different, a true network to plug into that is sophisticated, intelligent, and we're really looking to power up more women leaders, have a look, go to jointhetrust.org. We would love to talk with you and see if it's a fit for you. Want to give a shout out to 2 reviews that my team pulled for me to share today. Thank you so much. The first is Anna Label from Iceland. If you want to listen to one and only one business podcast, Glambition must be your choice. As an entrepreneur in the initial phase of starting a business, I keep looking around to see and learn what business coaches have to say. Allie's beautiful interviews on this show showed me a truly different level of conversations, just as Allie herself is describing them, elevated, intelligent, and with no BS. I love how Allie stops her interviewees and asks, can you say that again whenever yet another gold nugget of wisdom is said on the show? And Anna wrote quite a lot. If you'd like to read the whole review, go see on iTunes. The second one is from Tia Dalma from Romania. Very international ones today. A future client of Allie. Love Allie. Hope to work with her someday. She has excellent insights and the courage to go against what everyone else is doing at a particular moment. That's been the story of my life. Thank you for seeing that. And thank you, ladies, for continually leaving the reviews. They make such a difference. We will reward you. Giving a quick hint that we are doing another journal giveaway. And I don't mean like we're putting you in a drawing for a journal. I mean, everyone who's left us a review gets a journal. That's how much we care and are saying thank you. I'll share details in an upcoming show. But even if you take a few minutes now and leave us the review, we'll let you know later how to get your hands on one of those journals as a big thank you to write down all your ahas from the show. And you're going to have some today. My guest, Sigrun, who has a last name, but we don't say it. It's the name that isn't said because it's extremely hard to pronounce and I'm not going to butcher it on the show. But she said, really, Allie, I just go by Sigrun. Don't even try. We're okay, great. It's like Cher, you know. So Sigrun came into my world about 1.5 years ago. And I became instantly just fascinated with her. Here was this woman who speaks multiple languages. She has 4 master's degrees plus an MBA from London Business School. She's a certified Dale Carnegie trainer. She's turned around 1 or 2 companies in Iceland. And she had transitioned into being this online marketing coach and a really damn good one. I mean, there's a lot of people doing this stuff, but Sigrun knows her stuff. She is really known as a master coach, extremely well known in Europe and now gaining ground all over the world. But I was most excited to work with Sigrun because I knew something else was percolating. And as we started working together in my premier group, you know, there's the group that we get together in the meetings, but most of our work is one-on-one. That's why my work is very unique. And getting to know my clients, usually something is kind of bubbling up that's the next level. You know, we work on the current business, but something was kind of percolating up. And it's truly her iconic work. And that is called her Self-Made Summit. It is coming up in June, and she's going to tell you more about this and how it happened and this big dream of what this really represents to her and the legacy she wants to leave in the world. So there's so much to cover on the show, but I want you to hear it in her words. Get ready for a powerful conversation with the one and only Sigrun. Sigrun, where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Zurich, Switzerland.
And you just finished skiing?
Yes, we were skiing in Austria last week.
Yeah. Do you just grow up learning to ski where you
Actually
are?
not. No, in Iceland, we don't have so good skiing conditions as you have maybe in some parts of the US or in Switzerland and Austria.
Okay. We just think cold. We automatically think skiing. No, it's not. It doesn't go together all the time. Wow. It's been such an interesting time, getting to know you over our time together, but I'm really excited about talking today because as it is often with clients, we're getting down to business so much. There, is an opportunity now that we don't usually have to really dig into your story and, how you became Sigrun. And really, when you came into my world, I was like, who is this international woman of mystery? Like, just so fascinating, like all the places you've been and what you've done. But, I'm most excited about where you're going now. But can we start going back?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Icelandic. I was raised in Iceland, but I left when I was 20 years old to study abroad. I got this idea that I should become an architect. But even before that, I was 6 years old when a story of mine was read on national radio. And I took this as a sign up from the universe that I should be an author. Now, my parents didn't think that was a wise idea. You can live from being an author. So 2 years later, I decided, well, I can be a teacher because they have 4 months off in the summer.
I like your thinking.
And then the teachers went on strike when I was 11. And I asked my teacher, why are you going on strike? And he said, well, because I'm paid so little. And I'm like, what? So my dream of being an author and a teacher came crumbling down. I was obviously a very serious girl, 11 years old, and I had to find a new profession. This was, of course, I didn't have to do this so early, and it was not a pressure from my parents or anything, but I felt I needed to know at the age of 11 what I was going to do when I was a grown-up. And I decided to become an architect. I loved looking at houses. I loved making drawings. And then we went to south of Germany that summer, and it was sealed. I was going to go back, and I did. 9 years later, I was back in the same city in south of Germany studying architecture. And I loved studying architecture. It was a fun thing. It's a combination of like art and science in a beautiful way. But then I started to work part-time as an architect, architecture student, obviously. And I didn't like working as an architect. I only liked studying.
Why? What was it? The working part? Was it just because of the work or was it different feel?
No, I love working. My parents had their own business. So I've been working since I was 10 years old. In my parents' company, they had a dry cleaning. So a very, very simple kind of family business. So I've always been kind of a workaholic, but it was more how I envisioned my future. I was obviously like this girl, how is my life going to look like 10 years from now? And I didn't like what I saw. I didn't see myself as being one of the top architects in the world. I could see those guys, typically men, being famous, making museums and fabulous buildings around the world. And I realized, me coming from Iceland, being a woman, I just didn't see that path for me. I saw myself working in a small architecture office. Sometimes we would have projects, sometimes not. Sometimes I would get paid on time, sometimes not. Maybe eventually I would have my own architecture office, but I saw this as a very difficult path. I don't know. There was something, and it was not so exciting. At the same time, the internet was coming out. I got an email address at my university. I could send an email by pressing 3 buttons. And I always forgot which buttons it was, so I always had to look it up again. I think it was Q and K and X or something. And then I started to make my own website, and I was like, wow, this is so exciting. I did finish my degree, so I am a licensed architect, but I never worked as an architect. I moved into computer science because I saw that's the future, that's the big changes. And so that's what I started to do after that. And then I started to work in software companies, doing computer science studies on the side. I had moved back to Iceland by this time. And one day I lost my job and I saw a course being advertised for women in particular to learn how to do a business plan. And I thought, that's great, because there was something calling me about business. As I was working in this software company, this was around the dot-com era, around 2000, where companies would have these big ideas and most of the ideas would not pan out. They would burn money, as we call it, like they would spend more than they would earn. And I was questioning a lot of things. I was starting to get very interested in business, but I did not have a business degree or business education. So I did this evening course on business planning. And that led me to finding a job. It was very hard to get a new job at this time, but with my business plan in hand, I got a job in a small software company where I could do consulting. And it was only because my sister was already there that I got into the door, and with my business plan in hand, they gave me the job. I was too scared to start a business, but I had at least learned how to do a business plan. And it was in this software company a year later where the company was sold to new owners, and I got the crazy idea that I could become the CEO.
And how old were you?
I was 33.
Okay. And you'd never had experience running a business, being a CEO. What was your title at that moment before you made the leap?
Project manager.
Yeah.
I was in contact, like an account manager, project manager. Yeah. So no, I was someone that nobody would have asked if I wanted to have the job. But I did feel like, hey, I know all the clients. I've done offers. I've negotiated with them. If anything goes wrong with any of the clients, they contact me. My sister was hiring programmers and telling them what to do every day. So the CEO was a little bit, not involved in the daily business. So yes, the idea was crazy and nobody was going to ask me if I wanted the job. But there was a part of me feeling, I think I've got this. I think I know how to do this.
And what did you do?
So I figured out who had bought the company. That wasn't so clear, first of all. But then this was like a venture capital company. I went on their website and I saw there was a woman there who had been with me in school when we were like,
oh, wow,
8 and 10 years old. And I thought, well, I know this name. And with a bit of courage, I called up and said, here's the deal. I'm working as a software company. I know it's been sold to your company. You work for them. What do I need to do so that they would consider hiring me? And she told me, write a 2-page memo and I'll get it to the right people. And I started to do that, But at the same time that I felt this was the right thing to do, I had lots of doubts. I was asking everyone around me, my mom and dad, my sister, do you think I can do this? I don't know anything about bookkeeping or finance. And it was funny. It was actually a guy I was dating at the time who was most encouraging. So that was kind of interesting that it was not really, the closest friends or family. It was almost a stranger that said, go for it.
Mm. You wonder sometimes if those people are in your life for a reason at that time, looking back.
Yeah, that's true, because we only dated for 2 months and, I haven't seen him since. But obviously he was there at the right time to give me the right push and to go for what turned out to be a dream job. Yeah, so I sent in the memo and then I take one day off from work. And I was studying computer science on the side, as I said, and there was an exam. And I felt I needed to prepare for the exam, so I didn't go to work. But then my sister called me up and said, the owner was here. He was taking a look. So nobody had visited us for 3 weeks. And the one day I wasn't there, somebody came and take a look. And I felt, this is it. If I don't figure out how to contact this person today, I can forget about my dream. And this was a very strong calling. And I realized this exam is not important. I can redo it or, do it later or stop my studies. This is more important. I figured out his mobile phone number. That was not easy. I had to make several phone calls and do a little bit of white lying on the phone to make them hand over his number. And then I called him up and said, my name is Sigrun. I'm working at this company that I heard that used a spot, and I wanted to talk to you today. I heard you had come for a visit." And he said, "Yes." And I couldn't wait. I had to ask, "Do you have my memo?" And he assured me that he had it. And he invited me for a coffee. 30 minutes later, I was in the city center of Reykjavik having a meeting with him and his lawyer. And they were asking me hundreds of questions. I couldn't answer half of them. I felt a little bit like an idiot, to be honest. But a few weeks later, he hired me.
I'm laughing because you're probably, over the moon excited. Then you're like, "Oh, wow. Like, I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out."
Yeah. Well, in the background, I was working on a business plan because I had learned how to do a business plan. So he was impressed when I showed him, like, here's my Excel sheet. Here's what I think. I think we need to get a few more clients and da da da. Turned out the company had been losing money for 7 years. And I didn't really know about it. But once I figured that out and I created this business plan and I showed him how I was going to turn the business around and I was not going to increase my salary, he was very impressed. And he immediately decided, okay, if you achieve this goal, you're going to get a bonus. I got a company car. But yeah, he said, "I'm betting on you. I know you have no experience, but I like your style. I like your boldness."
Wow. Wow. So what happened at that position eventually?
So this was a crash course in business. I would be running the company during the day. In the evening, I would be looking through binders for accounting statements and just figuring out the whole bookkeeping, like where is potentially money hidden in the business, or how I was trying to understand the business through invoices, basically. Mm-hmm. And I discovered a few things we could do better. And I negotiated with a lot of the people we owed money, or the companies we owed money to. And within 11 months, I had turned the company around.
Wow. You're the turnaround queen. That's amazing. Now, I'm a little confused because you also have you have 4 MBAs. When did the MBAs all happen? Before this or at the same time or after? Not 4 MBAs, but master's degrees,
Yes. Well, the computer science degree went a little bit on hold as I was going through this turnaround phase. But as he put me into another company that also needed to be turned around, much bigger company, it was the 4th largest IT company in Iceland. We were only 4 women on the top 100 company list, and I was one of them, which resulted in a lot of media attention. And that was a tough turnaround. And we ended up selling the company before we achieved the turnaround. But during that time, I went a little bit back to the computer science. I wanted to finish the degree. I like to finish what I start. Sometimes I need to take a break, but I went back to it. And as I was running this larger IT company, I had we had stock. We had suppliers, we had a retail shop. This was a very much complicated business than a software company. And I felt a little bit in over my head, to be honest. And I started to think about this business degree that I didn't have. But I realized I was not going to start a new business degree without having finished the computer science degree first. So I hurried up, and then I made a proposal to my boss and said, "You're going to pay for my business degree in London." And he was like, "Why should I do that?" And was like, "Well, I'm not really gaining a lot. I doubled the value of the small software company. So I knew he had earned a lot of money with me being the CEO. And I said, this is my bonus. I want you to pay for my MBA." And so I hurried up, finishing the computer science degree. I just graduated even a month after I started my MBA in London. I was living in Iceland, went back to the software company, was running that to growing that even further. And I would fly to London every second weekend to do my MBA at London Business School.
Wow. Wow. So, how did you become the Sigrun we know today? This online master, one of the most prominent coaches. I really feel you're one of the most prominent women coaches in the world, and what you do and the types of clients you work with and how you work with people. So where did that bridge happen? Because when you came into Ally World, you were already there.
Well, looking back, it maybe looks like a red thread. I was just always looking to make my dreams come true, to be honest. I had an experience when I was 16 years old. I had been brought up in the belief that I could do anything. My parents never held me back, except if they didn't think I could live from it. But, I could become a computer scientist or an architect or whatever. And it was not based on gender what I could do. And growing up, we had a female president. 1980, we had the first female president in Iceland. He was president for 16 years. Even boys would ask, oh, can a man be a president? So it was a beautiful time to grow up as a woman and believe that women can do anything. And then I was 16 years old and I was doing a class at a dressmaker's home. I wanted to learn how to make my own clothes. And they were all talking about how they had not made their dreams come true and using their kids and spouses and time and money and skills as excuses. And I got very upset. I wasn't upset at the women, but at society for making women think this way versus if you met a man at that time, they would have not been allowed to use the same excuses. And in Iceland, we're number one in gender equality since a decade or more. And there is childcare at the age of 18. There is maternity leave. There's paternity leave, and still these women felt that they did not have the same options as a man with a similar background. And I was like, this can't be. Like, really? I became a feminist. I started to actually wear red a lot more. It was already my favorite color as a child, but I started to wear it more because it was a sign for me of power, of feminism, of my strong will of doing it differently. I knew instantly through this experience that I would at some point later in my life do something about this. I didn't know what or when. I knew I did not want to go into politics, but I felt I would be able to do something. Now, I kind of forgot this as I was studying architecture or doing this turnaround in software company, but I started to feel it a bit as a CEO because through the media attention that I got through my CEO job, I started to see like I'm a role model. And I realized being a role model is one way to change the world. By me always following my dreams, I am showing other women that they can do it too. So it became my motto to always make my dreams come true. So as I was suddenly a CEO of a software company, I saw an ad from Dale Carnegie. And I thought to myself, this is great. I'm going to learn how to be more confident. Not that I was lacking confidence. It was just like suddenly I'm the boss of people that used to be my colleagues. And I felt this would be good. I would learn how to speak. So I did a Dale Carnegie course, a 12-week course, and I absolutely loved it. It was completely different from what I thought it would be. I learned so many things about myself, and suddenly I worked through some relationship things that I had on my back still, and they asked me to become an assistant. And once you've been an assistant once, they typically ask you again. And if you have been an assistant for at least 3 or 4 courses, you have the chance to become a Dale Carnegie trainer. And I did that as well.
Of course you did.
And of course I did.
Detecting a pattern here.
Yes.
I love this.
There was always a challenge. And there was always this thinking like, well, is this my new dream? Then I'm going to make it happen. And no one is going to stop me. So yeah, I became a Dale Carnegie trainer. I didn't actually work as a trainer after that because suddenly I was flying back and forth between London and Reykjavik, Iceland. So there was no time. But I see it as a part of my journey. Like I actually have experience coaching people. And that was long before I decided to become a business coach. And when I started my MBA, we had to write down a vision. And my vision was writing books and speaking and, coaching people. And still at that time, my only thing was like, how can I be a CEO of a bigger company and a bigger company? But something happened in 2008, which stopped that path. I attended a Tony Robbins seminar where I met my husband, actually. I sat down next to him and 4 years later, we were married. And during that seminar, he talked about the 6 human needs and that we always have one need in the foreground. We have all the needs, but he talked about significance and love. And I realized I had been driven by significance. It was very much about the next job. And I had been single for 5 years. And I knew if I would continue on that path of, jumping on the next CEO job and making my job priority in life, I would not find the love of my life. And as I share this with a man sitting next to me, he basically fell in love with me because I could be vulnerable with someone that I didn't know at all. And we found a way together, and suddenly finding the next CEO job was just not so important to me. And I moved to Switzerland, got a job in a small medical technology company. And then I got sick for 7 months. And that really makes you think. I was already 40 years old, was sick for 7 months, couldn't work. And I realized I had to make a change. And I had gathered all this experience. I had the tech background in computer science. I had the business background by now, been 10 years as CEO. And online business started to call me. Like I knew this was where I wanted to. And I could work from home if I had an online business. Yeah. And so I started. But in the beginning, I also thought, like, who am I? Who am I to start to charge for coaching? Like, yes, I have, certified Dale Carnegie trainer. Yes, I have business experience, business education, but it still felt like you feel a little bit like fraud in the beginning where you're not making any money yourself and then you're supposed to help other people make money. But it went very fast. Once I finally kind of got over the shyness of asking for the sale and, doing videos and all that stuff that you have to do online, I achieved 6 figures in 12 months and $1 million in 4 years annual revenue. And I think everything has come together. I don't think it's one thing, but I've been working since I was 10 years old, and I worked in retail and in corporate, and all this coming together enables me to help my clients also build their 6 and 7 figure businesses.
Yeah. I think the best coaches that I see, and I know it's been part of my path as well, is it's interesting when you look back on your career. At the time, I felt my career was just like wonky. It was a zigzag. At one point, I was riding my bicycle selling vitamins. I mean, it was just like, and then looking back though, I use everything I learned today. Everything, all these skill sets. And what excited me the most about when I saw what you were doing, but then learned your background, I'm like, oh my God, she has more business experience than most of the business coaches out there combined. And I think it's just so cute. Here you are wondering, like, could I go be a coach? And we really need to remember, like, those of you listening with real business experience, I see a lot of women come into the coaching consulting industry and wonder, I don't know, I feel like they undervalue it a bit. So incredible. And that brings you such a great perspective when you're working with the women you work with on building their businesses. So Sigrun, tell everyone what you do now, what you've been doing the last few years, so they get to know, your kind of state of the union right now for the world of Sigrun.
So yeah, I started helping women just one-on-one coaching, like most coaches start. And then because I had this business background and I had already been thinking a lot about what type of business do I want to run in the future, I realized I want to run a business that's scalable. So even if I started with one-on-one, I realized I want to scale. And so I quickly went into group coaching and then online programs and online courses. But then when you have achieved all of that, you also ask yourself, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life? And I realized it's not. I went back to my why, the 16-year-old girl that wanted to change the world and make women believe in their dreams. And I realized I couldn't do that with online business alone. It's interesting how I really was trying to build a pure online business in the beginning. And with every year, I've started to add more offline elements. And it started with a mastermind day, like a one-day event. I started to do retreats. Then I started to do live events. But I realized I need to do something bigger than that. And I came back to this vision of like being on stage and speaking. But often you think, well, somebody should invite me to speak. But then I thought, well, what about if I host a conference? It's like this crazy idea of becoming a CEO in a small software company without business education or business experience. This idea of having a big conference, like a large international conference in Reykjavik, Iceland, where people fly in from all over the world and the speakers come from all over the world. I started to get this idea and I just couldn't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. I remember when it was kind of percolating and it would kind of pop back on our calls, it would kind of pop up again.
Yeah. And I think that's when you are meant to do something, it comes back again and again. And you can think to yourself, well, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe my list is not big enough. Maybe my social media following is not big enough. Should I wait another year, 5 years, 10 years? But I like to just put a date on my dream. The rest is logistics.
So tell everyone about the conference.
So as I was designing the concept for the conference, in the beginning, it was very mixed in my head. It was like men and women and some famous male speakers. But as I got clear on my why again, I think we always have to go back to our why. We sometimes forget it. And then I have to tap back into my why to understand what I'm really trying to achieve in this world, what my purpose is. And so it's all female speakers. And it's women who have already achieved 7 figures or more. And why? Because I do feel there are a lot of conferences out there with inspiring speakers. But then you ask yourself, have they actually achieved the success that I want to achieve? Have they actually had to risk a lot? Do they have this business experience that we talked about before? And unfortunately, there's not a lot of conferences that have that. And I want to really show people these normal, down-to-earth women that have achieved amazing things and what they did to get there. There was actually a video from Barbie, of all places. It was about a project that Barbie has, Close the Dream Gap. And I saw first an article. This was an exercise you had us do on one of your workshops. And otherwise, I would never have read the Barbie magazine. But on the last page, I discovered this project and I went online and found a video. And the video has 5-year-old girls in it. And the girls are sharing how their parents are more likely to look up, is my son a genius, than if for their girl to look up. And there was one sentence in there that really crystallized the concept. We need to see brilliant women doing brilliant things and telling us exactly what they did to get there.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. And when is the dates? It's June.
That's June 18th and 19th, 2020.
Okay.
In Reykjavik, Iceland. And these women are going to tell us exactly what they did to get to where they are. Plus, they all are teaching us something. I also like to go to conferences and learn about personal branding or LinkedIn or whatever it is. So it's a combination of both things. It's for people who want to take their business to the next level, learn how to scale, and make more sales.
I like that because the problem you see, and I talked about this on my recent show with the women's networks and women's events, they often turn into just this inspirational fest, which is great. You want the inspiration, but I don't see enough people adding in real practical application. And that's why I like the formula that you're putting on this.
Yeah, it's something, I've attended a lot of conferences. I'm a little bit of a conference junkie, and I know I'm going to reduce it in the future. But I see this was all meant to be as research because I see what I liked and what I didn't like. And I'm taking the best of what I've seen attending a lot of conferences in the last 5 years. And as I said, it's inspiration plus practical.
Yeah. And you got an early bird deal right now too?
The early bird deal is $697 for a regular ticket or $19.97 for a VIP ticket. The VIP ticket includes lunch with the speakers, and the speakers are very excited to see everyone at the VIP lunch. We also have planned tours for the guests because we know that for many people, this is probably going to be the only time they come to Iceland. I hear from a lot of people that they say, oh, I always want to go to Iceland and now I have a reason. So we have tours planned. One of the tours that we have planned for our guests is around gender equality, actually, because Iceland is at the forefront of gender equality and people would potentially want to learn more about that. There are also just the regular touristic tours, of course, highland tours and super jeeps, and you will drive over rivers and you will see geysers and go into hot tubs, natural hot tubs, of course. It's 24-hour daylight at this time of year, and that's why I chose this time.
Yeah.
And plus, on June 19th, which is just, the second day of the conference, it's 105 years since women in Iceland achieved voting rights.
Oh, wow. It's all coming together.
Yes.
It's a powerful time. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak. I'm sorry I can't make those dates, but it's so incredible what you're putting together, and we'll have to make it up to Iceland at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So share with everyone, for you coming out, I want to backtrack a bit. For you to now have the courage to put this into place, this is a much different venture, a conference like this, than you may have considered doing over the last few years, when you were really known as this, marketing mentor and working with women as their business coach. And why is this the next level for you? Where did this come from, in that transition?
I do believe online business is a bit of a bubble. Like when you're in it, you think everyone knows it, and that's how you're going to spread the message. But you're only going to reach the people that already are in it with you. And the only way you're going to have massive impact, like worldwide impact or global impact, is to also go offline and actually invite anyone to join, even if they've never heard of, online business or entrepreneurship. My goal is that women make their dreams come true, that my mission is to accelerate gender equality through female entrepreneurship. Now, it doesn't have to be online business. It could be something else. And that's why I just have to create this conference, to create a platform for these women to meet each other, get to know each other, to build this community and inspire more people to go after the dream, more women to create their own businesses. Because ultimately, the only way to achieve gender equality is through more wealth.
Mm-hmm. It's the bottom line.
Yes.
The more money that we control, the more change we can affect more, quickly. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Where can everybody go to learn about the conference? What's the website?
It's sigrun.com/selfmade summit.
Okay. Sigrun, sigrun.com/selfmade summit. And I hope a few of you listening can go. It's going to be an incredible experience. And to wrap up, Sigrun, can you share 3 of your best pieces of advice for all the women listening?
First thing is to ask for help. I think a lot of women are not asking for help. And even if they're further in business, they kind of think they can't ask for help. Like, for instance, sharing a conference, ask for help, ask for people to help you promote. The same thing about investing in yourself. I wasn't able to build my business until I started to invest in myself, and then showing up every single day.
Mm-hmm. Quick and easy. I like it. And by the way, I have to give Sigrun a shout out that there's a lot of my American clients that whine about travel, and Sigrun's almost never missed a meeting. In the Premier Group, we're always just amazed. There's people who can't make it and they live in town,
I will always make it. I think I had a very good excuse the one time I didn't come.
It was like one time everyone's shocked. They're like, where's Sigrun? Because I'm like, she's here. It may not look pretty, but she's here. Like she rolls off the plane or whatever it takes to get here. She is in that room. And I see that as your whole career, hon. You just made it happen. No excuses. And I think everyone listening really needs to learn from that. So we're so excited for you. We're so excited for this conference. And most of all, I'm excited just the person you're becoming in this process. Do you feel different now in this?
Absolutely. It's been actually hard. Like it's almost like you're making this transformation yourself as a person as you are stepping into such a new, big and crazy project. And yes, I feel different. And ask me a few months from now, I will be even more different person then.
Yeah, I can't wait. All right. Thanks, Sigrun. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Glambition Radio. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you automatically get new shows every week. And I'd love if you left us a review. We are on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other platforms. And I'd love to hear from you. Come join the conversation online. You'll mostly find me on Instagram, but also on Facebook, Twitter, and more. Just head to allybrown.com. You will find them all there. And you can also learn about upcoming opportunities to meet in person. Glambition Radio is the elevated conversation for women leaders, and I'm honored you've tuned in.